Welcome to this event. We're going to talk about maximizing efficiency in swine production. My name is Vincent ter Beek. I am editor for the magazine Pig Progress. We are based in the Netherlands, but we're reporting globally. We'll start off with Dr. Dean Boyd, Technical Director and Nutritionist at the Hannock Company, and we'll give you an insight into the improved livability with Silanase included.
Thank you very much. This is an opportunity for me, and we'll just spend a little bit of time talking about discovery that Janet and I tripped and fell over. So that's what the talk will be about today. In terms of a roadmap, basically we'll just give you a look at the first instance where it appeared that Silanase was improving pig viability. We'll go on to some data showing that it's dose related, and give you a look at the response to Silanase where the pigs are health challenged or where they're under low immune stress. Simply we'll emphasize the power of the viability from a financial standpoint. Quick question, is there nutrient uplift, yes or no? And how repeatable is it? And we'll say nothing about the mechanism other than I'm really looking forward to the last speaker. So, in terms of dietary ingredients, we've known for a number of years that certain ingredients have been used to manage disease. I think fish meal is one of those that is familiar to a number of us when pigs are going through some inflammatory challenges. If the fish meal is high quality, it can be quite helpful. Some of us have used steamed oats and derived the levels to be used in the diets based on the amount of medication that was required or pigs that were lost with each dose of steamed oats. And soybean meal is something that we've used to some success with older pigs, where you have systemic respiratory diseases such as flu or mycoplasma pneumonia. Having a very high level of synthetic amino acids and a low level of soybean meal is not the best. It will cost you in those periods of challenge. Those periods of challenge, as Gene Gorley discovered as well, it'll cost you severely. When I first started thinking about the ways in which the ingredients can be incompatible, in which there is an excellent report put out in the UK on humans and some of the adverse reactions to food. I thought about the cell-to-cell disruption that could occur. That was one thing that I considered, but I've been greatly impressed with has been learned on the microbiome and how one might be able to change it for the benefit. Not that I have done any original research. Very little of my research is original, as some would argue. But at any rate, today, the microbial balance and the ability to shift it to the benefit of the animal may be what we're dealing with. I want to emphasize something that is well known to a lot of you, but pig viability is one of the most differentiating factors among producers in North America. And AgriStats was able to show that by taking some 68 firms in 2010 and ranking them and seeing how the top 10% and the top 25% did relative to the average for a variety of traits. I've simply shown some of the most important traits here. And what they found was that livability or viability of the pig was especially important as a means to distinguish from one another. So that the top 25 for post-wean mortality were about 29% better than the average, and the same was true with those culled at barn close. And it really it simply shows that there is a differentiating ability. These have to do with number of pigs, and the bankers have told us over the years that the number of pigs is a pretty important aspect. Well, to determine where to put one's priorities, that each year we will actually go through a series of runs on a financial spreadsheet. Probably a lot of you have them. And we ask ourselves, given the conditions this year, anticipated market price for the pigs, and feed prices and various things, how much change would we need to make for the size of pig we anticipate selling, this is whole body pound, to produce $1.50 for all of the pigs. And that is a nice way of helping to identify the things that are of greatest power. It's pretty tough to beat carcass price, as I've indicated, on a dollars per hundredweight basis. But if it were to change by 71 cents per hundredweight, then we could change the net revenue by $1.50 a pig. And we go through from revenue through production criteria. But if you look at wean to finish mortality, which we combine with off-grade pigs, you find that if we can change that under our conditions this year by 0.78 or about 0.8%, then that puts $1.50 on top of all the remaining pigs. So it's showing itself as being fairly powerful. This year it takes a significant increase of weight, and we ask ourselves as we go through these, what is required and what is likely to be delivered on. For example, if you looked at feed conversion, it says in order at what we anticipated to be the weighted average in dollars per ton, then we'd have to improve feed conversion wean to finish by about 5 units to derive that. If you go back to 2013, when the feed cost was higher, then you need 0.034 units. And these are hard units for us to pick up on. You hope genetic improvement would deliver more faster, but it tends not to. It delivers quite slow. And so as we go through this, we basically emphasize the point that 0.8% wean finish mortality is something we felt we had a strategy around improving. So let me give you the first instance where, in collaboration with Janet Remus, who's actually quite a good mind, where we thought we saw something in terms of viability. And I didn't dress this up too much, but this is from 2008. It was a study that was conducted with the idea that we would add increasing amounts of mids from 0, 6% to 12, and then we would take the 12, we would take out the fat with the idea that if nutrient uplift was as some expected, that we might be able to have feed conversion on this diet equal the other diet if we added xylanase. So we had this diet duplicated minus the fat, and that's this one with 12% mids. We took that same diet and put in xylanase, and we didn't get the recovery and feed conversion as we had hoped, but one thing we observed, and again this is mortality, from about 55 or 65 pounds to 290-ish, and plus those pulled for significant medical treatment. And we saw an increase, not significant increase in the mortality, morbidity side. But what struck us, besides the fact nothing was significant, but I don't let that bother me, I noted that we had quite good numbers of pens and pigs, and these are indeed fairly small changes, but we noticed that this diet, in terms of its effect on the medical wellness of the pig, really were quite reproducible. And when we added silanase on top of it, my recollection is it was 4,000 of Janet's units that we returned this diet to essentially what you had for the corn soil. And some brush that away. But it doesn't take but 1, 2, or 3 pigs in a population to have problems with something like wheat or other ingredients that are high in mannan. That happens. And it's so well documented in humans, we can't forget about that in pigs. So we kept our eye on that and went about our business. And then after seeing it gently again, Janet and Dave Hall talked us into doing the study. I begged Janet not to make us do it, but she made us do it, and appealed to our years of friendship. And so we took over 1,100 of someone else's pigs on someone else's sites, but I put in the diets. And what we wanted to do was look at the dose-response effect for different levels of porcine. That PPMs there. That's not good, isn't it? I didn't check my labels. At any rate, the pigs were extremely high health. This was 25 to 280. You can forget the removed pigs. There were only 2 pigs in here that were removed that lived. And so you can see that in a diet having DDGs, wheat midds, high-fat rice bran, not a bad diet, really, that the livability or death loss was very modest. But notwithstanding that, you can have a dose-related improvement in viability. However, there was a quadratic effect, and so something not to the surprise of Janet and others that study this is that one can get too high levels and they become counterproductive, I understand, especially with younger pigs. Well, I took out the next segment of my talk and put in this segment just last night because we conducted a study where we wanted to come in again with more pigs, high health conditions, and do a dose-response study. And so we took over 2,100 pigs to a double-wide commercial research facility that has 2 rooms, PIC Genetics. It's balanced for gender, but gender for PIC Genetics, girls need to be in a separate pen from the boys. Girls are tough on boys. They can injure them. That may not be true of all genetics. The pen was the experimental unit, and there were 36 pens per room, 34 pigs per pen. We took them from 25 to 305 pounds. There were 16 pens on the xylanase, each xylanase treatment at about 530 pigs. It would not be enough pigs to do a viability study except we had the power of the curve that we were working with. The diets were formulated to be nutrient adequate, especially mindful of the amino acid side, which we had just titrated. And so the PIC 2011 requirements are really up 11% if you want to be 100% asymptote on the pig's requirement. But we had 6 feeding phases that began with a phase of 25 to 60 pound phase of the pig and went through 5 finish phases. For each phase, we manufactured 2 diets, a 0 units of xylanase per kilogram with a complete diet of 9,000. And we somewhat blended those with our Feed Logic system, which happened to be working. That was nice. Then we were able to blend, and we can get some very reproducible results. And so we went 0, 3, 6, 9,000 micrograms per kilogram. And then if pigs were removed for medical treatment to be humane to them, they were removed to a medical pen where they could still receive their same diet. And so whatever happened was going to happen at on their own diet. Pigs were harvested at Triumph Foods plant. Key measures were whole body daily gain and feed conversion. I'm always happy to get that, but I don't believe until I see how carcass yield, carcass daily gain, and feed conversion is affected. And of course, we had to carefully detail the mortality and all of that. I didn't put up every diet, but I gave you a feeling for what the diets were composed of from nursery 4 and then every other diet after that. So you can see it's corn soy based with a constant amount of DDGs, submit, modest amount of fat, and so on these diets you either had no porcine or high level of porcine, and the balance with amino acids, and actually equivalent of about 1,200 units FTUs phytase per kilogram. So of complete diet. So the diets were a fairly practical set of diets meeting fully the pig's requirements. I saw this data for the first time yesterday morning, so if you discover anything new in it, be sure and let me know. So this is how it's set up, having 4 doses of xylanase. This is the number of pigs that were allocated per treatment, number of pins, the start weight, the final weight, the days on feed. And statistics simply shrunk it down to the error term linear quadratic. And again, the power in this is simply the number of pigs that form the curve. What struck me is, to be honest, I don't often see an improvement in feed conversion. For me at least, it's hard to have it reproducible, but I have seen it. Now, I will tell you it's, that how it was driven wasn't basically to be suggested by whole body daily gain, or excuse me, whole body feed conversion, but this carcass yield, farm carcass yield, is not statistically significant. But we're very, very, very careful to get that right. And this is not the first time that we have seen with higher levels of xylanase a gentle improvement. And I will conclude at the 0.16 level of error that is more than likely real. Now these animals actually were cut at the plant into primal or saleable meats. And even though this is subtle, you will often see increasing amount, proportion of saleable meat from the carcass as well. So we have concluded that this is probably, this improvement in carcass feed conversion is probably sound, but what we're more excited about is, again, on the mortality side. Now this is strictly mortality by level of xylanase, and again, from 25 to 305 pounds, you can see the pigs were really quite healthy. We actually have another study going where the pigs weren't quite as healthy. And, but at any rate, with increasing amounts of xylanase, you do get, and I forgot to put it up here, a significant quadratic effect for livability or decline in mortality with increasing dose of xylanase. To turn it over, those pigs for which we received full value, then you can see how it followed the reverse. And so, again, you would say this is the third time we have seen this type of thing. And so we asked, and again, I want to emphasize, this is Janet's discovery. Okay. But I have other friends that used to work for Janet's company, and so I called them and I said, have you seen this sort of thing? And actually, I asked Janet first, do you see this in poultry? And she said, Roy Brewster told me the same thing. We do tend to see viability improved in poultry. And so I said to both of them, why didn't you tell me about it? But Janet gave a good answer. They didn't seem to get as excited about it as you are. And having talked to Roy, he started thinking a little more seriously about that. But I called a couple of Janet's good friends and asked them if they had examples of this. And in fact, they had 4 commercial studies, but they had gone to daily gain and feed conversion so quickly that they didn't know about livability. Said that were the records kept? Yes. We'll go back and mine them. So they did. And they had 4 studies, 3 of which were conducted under commercial conditions in the UK. On average, the pigs were about 31 kgs. I'm at a point in my career where I don't change back and forth. I'm just going to go simple. Okay. So about 68 pounds at start, and on average 253 pounds, but every one of them showed a response. The control averaged 7.2 across those trials, and xylanase added averaged 4.8%. So I said, can you send me the data? And they said they thought they could, but I want to first say something. This old boy, St. Georgi, was director of the NIH. Seemed like a peach of a guy from what I can tell. I've read some of his stuff, but he won the Nobel Prize in Physiology in 1937, but he has some really interesting comments on the conduct of research. And he just emphasizes to simply put things in place and kind of follow the results and have a completely open mind. And he made, the classic is what he said discovery was. It's seeing what everybody else has seen, but thinking what no one else has thought. And I feel like it was kind of one of those moments for Janet and our team. So, at any rate, back to the competitors. They conducted these studies, they just conducted these studies. But it so happened, 2 are under what you'd say are high health based on the rate of growth and death loss, and the others were under lower health, high immune stress. So in the one study, having about 1,550 pigs using 8 or 12,000 units. They only had 1 dose. Here's what they had, and you can see over this range, that's a pretty tough figure to beat. But they were able to improve upon it. The next study had 1,547 pigs. Again, UK study, very much wheat-based, and you can see again a response. So we quickly looked through the other data that they had, whether the pigs were under, I would conclude, greater health stress, immune stress, based on mortality, but also based on growth. And you can see for this period of 8 kilograms to 130, how that turned out, as well as for another set of pigs. In fact, this one was a trial conducted here in the United States. I don't know where it was conducted, but it had less than 400 pigs, but the diets were corn soy, just pure corn soy. This, again, was a UK-based diet that was wheat-based. So, I have one more study with another xylanase. That's 8. All of them have shown this effect, but I don't like to look at the data unless I have over 500 pigs per treatment. This, I think, for me is the first. I will end my talk early today. Okay. I don't know that I've ever done that except maybe my first abstract. From our vantage point, the most important improvement from Porzyme or xylanase is the ability to improve livability of pigs. If your death loss because of pigs flowing from PED farm or a highly virulent PRRS virus happen to reach 20%, it probably will do not much for you. That's a little too overwhelming. But this is the most important element of it. Nutrient uplift was observed in this study. It's not as consistently observed, and we normally don't, in our case at least with pigs and bigger pigs, usually don't see that except in carcass, and it's in feed conversion, and it's gentle. Now, this data, this return on investment is a little crude because I just worked it up an hour and a half ago based on this data. As I told you, I just saw it for the first time yesterday morning. If the feed, so what is the return over feed value per pig? If the feed is as we expect it to be this year across the phases weighted, at 3,000 units, it'd be $1.26 return. At 6,000 is where we have the greatest return. 9,000, we don't get anything extra for the investment. If the feed cost was higher, as you might expect, then the return is higher. Now that includes mortality and feed conversion. If you took the 335 and took the feed conversion out of it, then instead of $1.42, you have $58, $1.50, and 8 cents. So it's something that we've actually used in our system for 3 years, and we use it for nutrient uplift, but mostly mortality. We use a very high level of phytase. The diets are made deficient in amino acids and a bit on energy. And then where the, I'll say, superdose of phytase is unable to pull the performance completely up, we've seen a greater probability of returning completely the performance if we have xylanase in the diet. So we see it personally as a helpmate, and we see that in every other study. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd, for an excellent presentation. Are there any questions for Dr. Boyd?
The xylanase is going to work on the arabinoxylans that are in the substrate.
Yeah.
Did we do testing, Dean, and know what the overall arabinoxylan content was of your diet?
Not on the diets used here, but diets like them that we've used in a prior study, we did. We did.
And those were like between 3 and 4%. Is that about right?
I can't remember, to be honest. I can't. Yeah. Yeah.
Dean, my understanding on your trial designs, you split sex, you split gender.
Right.
Do you see a differential response between sexes?
That's a very good question. Bob, I can't say on the trial, I just showed. I'll know that by tomorrow morning if Kate doesn't quit.
We'll talk.
Okay. But I have not, to be honest, in the previous study where we had seen this, I had not seen the females responding differently than the boys. But that's a good one to look at because, as you know, boys tend to die to a little greater extent.
So any attempts to tease out when those differences in death loss are taking place? Are they differences across all phases or early, late?
This is the best study to look at that in, and we have that information because we have the death loss recorded every day. And so we'll be able to look at it in weekly packets. If xylanase were to have an effect, I would anticipate that it may be because of the oligo structures that are being released that can maybe help promote beneficial bacteria over pathogenic. So I would expect that if there was to be some teasing apart, I'd have to be weeks into it, not days. And I can say on nutrient uplift in the finished pig at least, you need weeks, not days. Yeah.
Adding on to Bob's question, in the evaluation on the split sex side of it, were you measuring FCR by sex as well and average GLP by sex as well?
Yes. Yes. They're pinned in the same barn but in different pins. So we look at it by sex.
Okay, so you will have numbers on that side of it as well.
That's right. So you want to talk to Janet, she's going to be rich with data in a week or two.
I just have an interesting observation.
Yeah.
Trial done in Canada where
Oh,
it was kind of flat. This is quite a few years ago, but the results were flat in terms of feed conversion and average daily gain. But when they split up the sexes, the females had an improvement in average daily gain.
yes.
And males had an improvement in feed conversion.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry. So males had an improvement in average daily gain, and the females had an improvement in feed conversion.
Okay.
But when you merge that together, it was flat.
Yes. Yes. This is a place where we'll have good power in terms of numbers, but in terms of pins, I wished I had more pins. There's 72 total pins divided by 4, divided by 2. So, but you're certainly going down the right side of the road. I agree. It has to be looked at. We also record the number of medications they have to be, the number of treatments they have to have and what they're treated with, but mainly with the number of medications as well. But we didn't see anything in terms of number of medications that was different.
I think, if I caught it, all your studies have at least some level of wheat mids in it.
That is true.
Any speculation on corn, soy, distiller diets and substrate?
Yeah.
So,
But, you know, it was fortunate for us that the competitor company is not competitive with you. Just kidding. But that they had only a corn soy diet, but they also had a fairly low number of pigs. It was less than 400. But that is a common thing for us, and I will tell you, even though there's a couple dissenters from time to time, we measure those things very carefully, and so wheat mids, and I can't say, I'm assuming wheat would be the same, there will be a tendency to increase the number of pigs that have to be pulled and treated, and the mortality can be as high as 3/4 to 0.8% higher if I use 200 pounds per ton. If I get more aggressive, it'll go a little over 1% higher. So they may be a lot like humans.
Any other questions?
Here, quick question, what's your thoughts on sow mortality as this means of helping alleviate some sow mortality, especially when we get in the summer months here? I know there's a lot of different.
To be honest, we do use it for the sow, and we use it to the tune of about 4,000 Janet units. And I don't know if it has an effect, but I presume if in some manner it's changing the microbiome, I like that. And so I see that as a good investment. It's a good 90 cents a ton. So I'm hoping we have no data.
Is that in gestation or lactation?
Both. Yeah, it's both. You know, Steve Pullman did an interesting study a few years ago with his data people, looking at single sow farm flows and asking to what extent did the sow farm influence what happened out there once the pigs were weaned and grown to market. As I remember, about 65% of how a pig did in the field, growth, livability, was determined by the sow farm that they came from. So I don't know anything to speak of about microbiome, but as I listened to some of the Gates Foundation people on it, that's something that actually the person who will succeed me has started a project on to try to define that by our sow units. So,
Any other questions? If not, then I suggest give Dr. Boyd a great round of applause.